Good evening. It is now 7 p.m. and I would like to start the meeting of the Standards Committee. I would like to welcome members and co-opted members to the meeting. I would like to remind everyone present this meeting is being recorded and will be uploaded onto the Council's website. Item 1, apologies for absence. I have received apologies from Councillor D. Arnold and from Charles Clark, one of our co-opted members. Are there any further apologies? Thank you very much. Item 2, minutes. Do members approve the minutes from the Standard Committee held on the 11th of February 2025? And Councillor Kent?
Yep, I've got no problem to the minutes.
I was going to look to you as well, because you were there that night. So with that in mind, I'm happy to approve the minutes. Item 3, declarations of interest. Does anyone wish to declare a declaration of interest? Okay. Item 4, annual review on complaints matters for 2024-25. This report can be found on pages 11 to 16 of the agenda. As the appendix to this report is exempt, if members wish to discuss this appendix, we will need to go into exempt session. Can I ask Dan Fennick to present this item, please?
Yeah. Thank you. Just apologies in advance, because we're at the start of the municipal year, there's quite a bit of duplication in some of the information in the different reports, but this is the annual review of complaints, and the aim of the report is to allow the committee to look back at the complaints over the past year to be able to identify were there any concerns, patterns or issues that they wish to raise that we could then use going forward, whether it's in terms of broader training and awareness for members or areas where we need to improve performance around those complaints. In essence, the body or the substance of the report is in the exempt appendix. Now, I've looked at and I think there are some general comments I can make that wouldn't identify any exempt information. And again, what I'd seek to identify are those patterns that we can see. And so I think the first thing I would say is that we received 10 complaints in the last municipal year, which for 48 members, an authority of 49 members, you would is actually quite a reasonable number in terms of being. You don't want a situation where you have no complaints, because that may suggest that people don't know how to complain, or feel afraid to complain, or feel that making a complaint is not worthwhile. But equally, and self-evidently, you don't want to have a large number of complaints being made across a range of areas and also of seriousness. Of those complaints, the vast majority were made by members of the public, 8 out of the 10. One complaint was made by a councillor, one complaint was made or has been made by an employee. I would again, my experience of dealing with code of conduct complaints over 20 years is that would probably be a typical pattern, and in fact it would probably be more of a concern if a greater proportion of the complaints were by members against other members, because it would suggest potentially an element of political tit for tat in the use of the code of conduct. Equally, a single complaint from an employee, obviously it's only you can't draw too much statistical significance from that, but it is obviously something that we would look to try and minimise, because member officer relations are really important. But that particular complaint, it remains live, so I won't make any further comment on that. turning in very broad terms to the category, what are the complaints about? The large majority of the complaints are about perceived poor personal conduct by councillors. Now, I have to be careful there because that is the allegation that was made, and as you will see from the information, none of those complaints were upheld or pursued. And that, in some circumstances, includes, although not to a large degree, the conduct of members on social media. The other complaint related to an allegation of the failure to declare interests and gifts and hospitality, which again was not found against the member and dismissed at the initial assessment stage. I mean, it's difficult to draw too much from that, but again, if we were to have found that say 50% of the complaints were about declarations of interest, then that would point us towards having some concern there, but also looking at solutions around training and awareness for members, particularly at the more significant committees where interest can have an impact or raise allegations of impropriety within the council as a whole, such as planning and licensing. Looking then over at, in general terms at the outcomes over the past year, 6 out of the 10 did not proceed beyond the initial assessment stage for a number of reasons, which included failure to make a complaint within the framework of the Code of Conduct, but also in a smaller number of complaints, we sought information from the complainant asking for more detail about the complaint and didn't receive any response at that stage. So there may be an element to which complaints are put in and then not pursued. One complaint was resolved successfully by informal resolution, and there is one complaint that remains live, which obviously I won't go into. One of my final point would be one of the concerns of members, which is a legitimate concern, is about how long it is taking to resolve, by whatever means, the complaints. And following members' comments at previous meetings, additional columns have been added to the table. And you will see that the average over the 9 complaints that have been resolved, my quick maths suggested that the average time taken was 14 weeks. However, I would point out that in 3 cases, there was a long delay whilst we were seeking and then ultimately unsuccessfully seeking further information out of the complainant about the nature of their complaint, which obviously extended the length of time it took to resolve those complaints by giving them a reasonable opportunity to respond, but then ultimately not, and then at that point we closed the complaint. So those are my general observations. Obviously I've taken care not to identify any specific individual complaints, and I'm more than happy to take questions, or obviously it is also for the committee to discuss amongst itself rather than just being a Q&A.
Thanks for that, Dan. In light of the fact that there's there's names on here and things like that, I think we should go into closed session for the questioning and discussion amongst ourselves, and in case we inadvertently sort of name someone or whatever. How does the committee feel about that? Is that okay?
Agreed.
And then we'll summarise back on the live feed. Thank you, Jenny. Thank you. We're now back in open session, and I will move to the recommendations. So, recommendation 1, note the information regarding complaints received under the code during the year 2024 to 25 as provided in exempt appendix 1. So I think we've all done that. And provide any commentary and recommendations regarding the complaints and or the complaints handling process. I think we've done that in the closed session. So are members happy to approve the recommendations?
Agreed.
Thank you. Okay, Item number 5, Ethical Framework Update. This report can be found on pages 17 to 28 of the agenda. As Appendix 3 in this to this report is exempt, if members wish to discuss this appendix, we will need to go into an exempt session. Can I ask Dan Fenwick to present the item, please?
Thank you. And as members will have spotted, the Appendix 3 is very similar to the document just looked at, although it's exactly the same as that, is it, Jenny? Because I would obviously, given the size of the font, I'd refer members to that. This is the quarterly update, or the report. It's not quite quarterly because we meet 3 times a year. Report that we bring about various aspects of ethical conduct in the last reporting period, in particular the level of declarations of interest, declarations of gifts and hospitality, and also complaints. We've obviously just discussed complaints and the one current live complaint, which I think is one I would say is also good. We're in a very good position to be a council with only one active code of conduct complaint. The appendices identify the gifts and hospitality and in the period from February to July, and you'll note there's been one declaration. And then at Appendix 2, in terms of declarations of interest at meetings, there are no declarations in this period. Now, what I would say, and certainly I will be asking Dem Services and Helen to have a look at it, is it may be that it's a quirk because of we were anticipating elections, therefore there were fewer meetings, but it does seem surprising there were no declarations in any meetings in that period, just to have a quick review to see if there was anything that maybe there's an issue with raising awareness about when to declare an interest. But it could just be coincidental in that we've had quite a long period with a small number of meetings, and obviously the focus there would be around particularly the regulatory committees of planning and licensing. But other than that, I'm open to answer any questions.
Does any member have any questions to ask or anything to? And to be honest, I covered a lot of mine during the exempt session, to be honest, and there's only one on there that's okay. I think you've made it very clear for us, Dan, and it's just something we need to keep our eyes open to. And as you said, when as more meetings come in, that's maybe sort of after we've done a cycle of this municipal year, we'll see if any more declarations have been made, and if, as you say, it seems out of kilter with other councils, maybe that's a training issue in terms of what to declare and how. So, okay then. Are you happy for me to move on to the recommendations then, everyone? Sure. Okay. Recommendation 1.1 is to note and approve any comment on the Registry of Gifts and Hospitality at Appendix 1. 1.2 to note and provide any comment on the Register of Declarations of Interest at Appendix 2. And 1.3, note and provide any comment on Code of Conduct complaints received and concluded during the period as set out in Exempt Appendix 3. Are members happy with these recommendations? Agreed. Excellent. Okay. Item 6, Standards Committee Annual Report 24-25. This report can be found on pages 29 to 38 of the agenda. Can I ask Dan Fenwick to present this item, please?
Thank you. So what we are proposing is that the committee present a report to full council about its work and providing its comments on the ethical standards in the authority, citing the various aspects of its work over the previous period, which are set out in the report. Notable examples there are the training and development that has been undertaken by members, and also the committee contributed to the review of the Code of Conduct and the procedure for considering complaints and undertaking hearings, and that will be going to full council for approval in July. And the committee contributed to the council's response to the government's consultation on strengthening conduct, the conduct regime, and in particular the relevant to discussion earlier we had about introducing the potential for statutory sanctions for members who are found in breach of the Code of Conduct. There was a review of the issue of sensitive member interest. This is where, as members will recall, all members are required to declare and register various interests such as employment, land, contracts with the council, and however there is an ability to withhold those interests where there is a potential threat of violence or intimidation against members. And members considered a report with regard to employment, but also home addresses, which are now withheld for all members as a measure to protect members and against the broader national context of increased risk and intimidation of elected officials generally. As part of the report, we asked the independent persons who advise on the Code of Conduct and ethical matters for their comments, and they're included at paragraph 5. And it is obviously open also to the chair of the Standards Committee to add their comments either orally when presenting the report at full council or as part of the annual report itself. Again, much of the information will be familiar and I'm open to questions or comments about the content of the report.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Kent, have you, as chair last year, is there anything you want to sort of say about it?
Not really. The only thing I just wanted to point out was that with the training and how that appeared to go well, and sort of also monitoring if that the people that were unable to go, are we able to provide handouts, because there could have been, they might still be learn things from, even though they're not there. If they could get handouts out to them, then that will be helpful, because obviously there's valid reasons why people can't attend. If it's during the working week, a lot of councils have full-time jobs that mean that, and their full-time jobs aren't working from home ones, for etc. They might have other responsibilities. So I think if we could, I think that's a good thing that we're doing, and just sort of monitor how, continue to monitor the training take up, how it's delivered, and if we can improve it, or if the improvement is something like just making sure handouts either sent electronically to every councillor is done, or hard copies if requested, so that everyone has got the information there to make sure that they can fulfil their roles in a better way. That was all, Chair.
Thank you.
That's fine. I don't know. Jenny may have the answer whether the training information was shared with all members. I don't want to put you on the spot, though.
Okay. Any further comments from anyone on the committee? Okay. So, recommendation 1, members are to note and approve the annual report of the Standards Committee for 2024-25. Are members happy to approve this recommendation?
Great.
Thank you. Item 7, the work programme. The work programme can be found on pages 39 and 40 of this agenda. Do members have any comments on the work?
I haven't got any comments yet. I think it's where we left it from the last time, and it's nothing's really changed between then and now.
To be fair, we do want a few items that we go deep into. So, constitutional review, member training. It seems for November at least, it's pretty much as you'd want. Maybe towards the end of the municipal year, we could kind of update on the earlier discussion we had on the pink paper about the complaints and things to see if any more trends are emerging or have emerged in the time since this meeting and that one, which will be the last one of the municipal year. There's only, there's already an ethical framework update on there, but if we could perhaps carry on from where we left off tonight. Okay. So, with that in mind, that concludes the business of the meeting this evening, and I now declare the meeting closed at 7:30 p.m.